According to the National Electrical Code, specifically the 2020 edition, ground fault circuit interrupter protection is required for recreational vehicle receptacles that are rated at 125 volts and 30 amps or less. This requirement is implemented to enhance electrical safety and mitigate the risk of electrical shock hazards associated with using electrical appliances and equipment in recreational vehicles. A ground fault circuit interrupter, commonly known as a GFCI, is a crucial safety device designed to detect ground faults. A ground fault occurs when there is an unintended electrical path from a live conductor to ground. This can happen if there is damage to insulation, moisture intrusion, or other factors that compromise the integrity of the electrical system. When a ground fault is detected, the ground fault circuit interrupter quickly interrupts the flow of electricity to the circuit. This rapid interruption minimizes the duration of exposure to the electrical fault, thereby reducing the risk of serious injury or electrocution. The National Electrical Code provides comprehensive guidelines and standards for electrical installations to ensure safety and prevent electrical hazards. The code is updated periodically to reflect advancements in technology, address emerging safety concerns, and incorporate best practices in electrical design and installation. The requirement for ground fault circuit interrupter protection in recreational vehicle receptacles is specifically addressed in Article 551 of the National Electrical Code, which covers recreational vehicles and recreational vehicle parks. This article outlines the specific requirements for electrical systems in recreational vehicles, including wiring methods, overcurrent protection, grounding, and ground fault circuit interrupter protection. The reason for requiring ground fault circuit interrupter protection for 125 volt, 30 amp or less recreational vehicle receptacles is that these receptacles are commonly used to power various electrical appliances and equipment in recreational vehicles. These appliances and equipment may include refrigerators, air conditioners, televisions, and other electronic devices. Because recreational vehicles are often used in outdoor environments, they may be exposed to moisture, humidity, and other environmental factors that can increase the risk of ground faults. Additionally, recreational vehicles may be subject to vibrations and movement, which can also contribute to the deterioration of electrical insulation and the occurrence of ground faults. The ground fault circuit interrupter protection required by the National Electrical Code is intended to provide an additional layer of safety in these environments. By detecting and interrupting ground faults, the ground fault circuit interrupter minimizes the risk of electrical shock hazards and protects occupants of recreational vehicles from injury. When installing or maintaining recreational vehicle receptacles, it is important to ensure that the ground fault circuit interrupter protection is properly installed and functioning correctly. The ground fault circuit interrupter should be tested periodically to verify that it is capable of detecting and interrupting ground faults. If the ground fault circuit interrupter fails to operate as intended, it should be replaced immediately to ensure continued protection against electrical shock hazard. In addition to the ground fault circuit interrupter protection requirements for recreational vehicle receptacles, the National Electrical Code also includes other requirements for electrical safety in recreational vehicles. These requirements include proper grounding, overcurrent protection, and wiring method. Grounding is essential for providing a safe path for electrical current to flow in the event of a ground fault. Proper grounding helps to prevent electrical shock hazards and ensures that overcurrent protection devices operate correctly. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are designed to protect electrical circuits from excessive current flow. These devices interrupt the flow of electricity when the current exceeds the rated capacity of the circuit, preventing overheating and potential fire hazards. Wiring methods are also important for electrical safety in recreational vehicles. The National Electrical Code specifies the types of wiring that are permitted for use in recreational vehicles, as well as the methods for installing and supporting the wiring. Proper wiring methods help to prevent damage to the wiring and reduce the risk of electrical shock hazards. It is important to consult the National Electrical Code and other applicable codes and standards when installing or maintaining electrical systems in recreational vehicles. These codes and standards provide detailed guidance on how to ensure electrical safety and prevent electrical hazards. It is also important to use qualified electrical professionals who are familiar with the National Electrical Code and other applicable codes and standards. These professionals can help to ensure that electrical systems are installed and maintained correctly and that they meet all applicable safety requirements. In summary, the National Electrical Code requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for 125-volt, 30-amp or less recreational vehicle receptacles to enhance electrical safety and mitigate the risk of electrical shock hazards. The ground fault circuit interrupter is a crucial safety device that detects and interrupts ground faults, minimizing the duration of exposure to electrical faults and protecting occupants of recreational vehicles from injury. When installing or maintaining recreational vehicle receptacles, it is important to ensure that the ground fault circuit interrupter protection is properly installed and functioning correctly, and to consult the National Electrical Code and other applicable codes and standards for guidance on electrical safety. The purpose of a ground fault circuit interrupter is to detect very small imbalances in current between the hot and neutral conductors in an electrical circuit. These imbalances often occur when there is an unintended path for current to flow to ground, such as through a person touching a live wire or a faulty appliance. Standard circuit breakers are designed to protect against overloads and short circuits, which involve much larger current flows. They do not typically respond to the small current imbalances that indicate a ground fault. A ground fault circuit interrupter works by constantly monitoring the current flowing through the hot and neutral conductors. Under normal conditions, the current flowing through both conductors should be equal. However, if a ground fault occurs, some of the current will leak to ground, creating an imbalance between the hot and neutral conductors. The ground fault circuit interrupter detects this imbalance and quickly trips the circuit, interrupting the flow of electricity. The tripping time of a ground fault circuit interrupter is typically very fast, often in the range of a few milliseconds. This rapid interruption minimizes the duration of exposure to the electrical fault, thereby reducing the risk of serious injury or electrocution. Ground fault circuit interrupters are designed to trip at relatively low current levels, typically around 5 milliamps. This sensitivity allows them to detect even small ground faults that might not be detected by a standard circuit breaker. There are two main types of ground fault circuit interrupters. Firstly, receptacle-type ground fault circuit interrupters are designed to be installed in place of a standard electrical outlet. These ground fault circuit interrupters provide ground fault protection for all devices plugged into the receptacle. Secondly, circuit breaker-type ground fault circuit interrupters are designed to be installed in the electrical panel in place of a standard circuit breaker. These ground fault circuit interrupters provide ground fault protection for the entire circuit served by the breaker. When selecting a ground fault circuit interrupter, it is important to choose one that is rated for the appropriate voltage and current. The ground fault circuit interrupter should also be listed by a recognized testing laboratory, such as Underwriters Laboratories, to ensure that it meets safety standards. Ground fault circuit interrupters should be tested periodically to verify that they are functioning correctly. The test procedure typically involves pressing a test button on the ground fault circuit interrupter, which simulates a ground fault. If the ground fault circuit interrupter trips when the test button is pressed, it is functioning correctly. If the ground fault circuit interrupter does not trip, it may be defective and should be replaced. Ground fault circuit interrupters are required in many locations by the National Electrical Code. These locations typically include bathrooms, kitchens, garages, and outdoor areas where there is a high risk of exposure to moisture or water. The National Electrical Code also requires ground fault circuit interrupter protection for certain types of equipment, such as swimming pool equipment and portable generators. The requirement for ground fault circuit interrupter protection for 125-volt, 30-amp or less recreational vehicle receptacles is intended to protect occupants of recreational vehicles from electrical shock hazards. Recreational vehicles often have electrical systems that are more vulnerable to ground faults due to their exposure to moisture, vibration, and other environmental factors. By requiring ground fault circuit interrupter protection for these receptacles, the National Electrical Code helps to ensure the safety of recreational vehicle occupants. It is important to note that ground fault circuit interrupters do not protect against overloads or short circuits. These types of faults are protected by standard circuit breakers or fuses. Ground fault circuit interrupters are designed to protect against ground faults, which are a different type of electrical hazard. When installing a ground fault circuit interrupter, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. The ground fault circuit interrupter should be installed in accordance with all applicable codes and standards. It is also important to ensure that the wiring is properly connected and that the ground fault circuit interrupter is securely mounted. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician to install the ground fault circuit interrupter. An electrician can ensure that the ground fault circuit interrupter is installed correctly and that it meets all applicable safety requirements. In addition to ground fault circuit interrupters, there are other safety devices that can be used to protect against electrical hazards. These devices include arc fault circuit interrupters, surge protectors, and ground rods. Arc fault circuit interrupters are designed to protect against arc faults, which are a type of electrical fault that can cause fires. Surge protectors are designed to protect against voltage surges, which can damage electronic equipment. Ground rods are used to provide a path for electrical current to flow to ground in the event of a ground fault. Electrical safety is an important concern, and it is essential to take steps to protect yourself and your family from electrical hazards. By following the National Electrical Code and using appropriate safety devices, you can minimize the risk of electrical shock, fire, and other electrical hazards. Remember to always turn off the power before working on any electrical equipment. Use caution when working with electricity and do not take risks. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you. Always inspect electrical cords and appliances for damage before using them. Replace any damaged cords or appliances immediately. Never overload electrical circuits. Use extension cords sparingly and make sure that they are rated for the appropriate amperage. Keep electrical appliances away from water. Never touch electrical appliances with wet hands. Install ground fault circuit interrupters in areas where there is a high risk of exposure to moisture or water. Test ground fault circuit interrupters periodically to make sure that they are working correctly. By following these safety tips, you can help to prevent electrical accidents and protect yourself and your family from electrical hazards. The information provided is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or other professional for specific advice related to your situation. The National Electrical Code is a complex document, and it is important to consult the code itself for complete and accurate information. The code is updated periodically, so it is important to use the latest edition. You can obtain a copy of the National Electrical Code from the National Fire Protection Association. The National Fire Protection Association also offers a variety of training and education programs related to electrical safety. These programs can help you to learn more about electrical hazards and how to prevent them. Electrical safety is a shared responsibility. By working together, we can create a safer environment for everyone. Always be aware of the potential hazards of electricity and take steps to protect yourself and others from harm.